Hey, I went to China recently. You want to know my thoughts on it? Well, this is the video for you. I don't know why you'd care.
A better you starts today.
But if you do care, thank you very much for caring. And I care about you, and that's why I want you to come to my seminars in Sydney. I've got 4 of them, I think, left. Yeah, that's right, 4. Count them 4. And we are going to be discussing all of the deepest, most inner, scariest parts of human motivation that are going to boot camp you up and get you to the next level. And that is how they've been designed. I've been thinking about this for about 6 months. I have designed these in such a way that I want to get the most out of you, as in the crystallized ideas that we've been talking about for years, pumped in you in a context where you are ramped up, ready to go, and I'm ready to go as well, and we're going to get you to make those changes that you need to make in your life. That's what those seminars are designed to do. Make sure you get your tickets. We do have limited spacing, so links below. Anyway, here's what I noticed when I was in China. Well, I'll let you notice this part. First off, Chinese people are greedy, right? That's their vice in life. I think that China's greedy, America's insane, Australia's lazy. Like, if you look at their vices, that's what they want. Yeah, like, they really, really, really like money. And as a result of that, I don't think that they're as warlike as we portray them out to be in the West. I think that generally they don't like the idea of war. If you listen to most of their stories about who was a good emperor and who was a bad emperor, the good emperors are the ones that are always bringing out peace, because peace brings with it what? Prosperity. You know? Americans are very warlike people. I mean, look, they've just got guns. They're always ready to go. They're just like, someone's coming to get me. Government's coming to get me. And then the government is thinking, they're like, Chinese government's coming to get me. Chinese government's coming to get me. Like, they have that about them. Chinese people are just very much just like, yes, yeah, it's $20. Like, they just, that is what is animating them, I can guarantee you. Anyway, now that I've pissed off everybody that has clicked onto this video immediately, allow me to piss you off further by talking about the success of the CCP. Yeah, no, honestly, when you go there, you realize the government, by and large, is out of your life. Yeah? As in, it is not advertising itself endlessly. So, when you're in Australia even, what's in the news constantly? Someone's pissed off at Albanese. Albanese's had enough. Albanese condemns protesters. Protesters condemn Albanese. Albanese said this about the protesters. Protesters, in return, tried to throw Molotov cocktail. It's just endlessly in front of your face. Government. And then it's just on a next level when it comes to the Americas. And why is that? Well, really, if you think about it, there is a necessity in a democracy to endlessly be in your face. There is also a necessity in a democracy. The natural paradigm that you're going to see everything through is what? Conflict. You are also going to see it through, and this is where it gets into self-help, the process. The democratic process. Do you see where I'm getting at here? In a democracy, it is expected and welcomed that there is going to be endless arguments, endless argy-bargy. One government gets in, they strip away as much as they can of the next government gets in, they strip away as much as they can of the government. It's kind of just that Red Queen theory of just running in the same spot endlessly. Hopefully you're getting somewhere, but there is such a strain and tire. Even on the, the population itself, they're always just like, I'm sick of politics. Yeah? There's no opportunity in China to be sick of politics. I don't think so anyway. I think that generally, government seems to be deliberately not in front of you constantly, by the way, because there's no need, because it's not a democracy, right? So they are not there in front of you per se, constantly just coming up with announcements, constantly talking about how glorious they are. Much like in a lot of dictatorships, like a bunch of true dictatorships like Turkmenistan or something, there's just golden statues of Gurbanguly everywhere, portraits of him everywhere, and it comes off as quite insecure because it's constantly just sitting there and being like, I'm necessary, I'm very necessary. They're just getting on with business. Now, in contrast to the democratic process, where it's just like, we'll argue out and the best ideas will win. Theoretically, that's how it's supposed to work. Theoretically, in China, how it's supposed to work is you're supposed to have 50-year plans, and you're supposed to achieve those plans. This is what I got from listening to Chinese people talk about their government when I was there. People in China see getting into government. Actually, I'll talk about like how we in the West see it, and you tell me if you agree with this, right? We see getting into government as either you are a cheap, fame-hungry person that is looking for any validation that they could possibly get. See all the MILFs in the MAGA movement with the big powdered up lips that you could clearly tell were hot and now are kind of just on the way out, and they can't accept that, yeah? And so they just need to be like, I just care about borders, and just to keep the attention there. I think that that's one vein of it, and then there's just the psycho that thinks like, I'm going to change the world, and that's generally what we see democracy as. We see it for people that are a little bit nutty in some aspect or another, right? Like that they either got a big personality complex because they need endless validation, or they have a big personality complex because they've got some sort of godlike status and they think like, it's up to me to do it, right? And that's generally what you see politics as. China, they kind of just see it as getting a job in a private corporation. Like, you may as well just be working for HSBC Bank. You may as well just be working for IKEA on the board. That's what they see it as. That it's an extremely professional outfit. There's none of this theatrics that you have in democracy, right? They have theatrics in the sense that they might have military parades or something, but they don't have those endless, Bob Catter comes out with a bunch of $1 trillion bills. That's how much debt we have. There's none of that. There's no need for it. It's generally a much more professional outfit like the corporate sector is. And like in the corporate sector, they have KPIs. And that's pretty much how you rise up in the CCP. Obviously, like in everything, like with every corporation ever, there's obviously going to be like elements of nepotism to it. And there's going to be factions. That's all there. But that happens in the corporate world as well. Generally speaking, though, pretty much the only thing that matters in that government is results. That's it. So if you hit your targets, you are rewarded by getting a promotion, much like in the corporate world. Theoretically, that's how it's supposed to work. Theoretically, in democracy, it is a battle and contest of ideas, and the best ideas win out. Do you see how we are seeing the world in completely different ways? We see the world, much like Japan does. Japan definitely sees the world like this, but we are seeing the world as a process. It is a process. China is seeing the world, obviously, like you're going to go in and out of these two perspectives constantly, but they are much more focused on the result. They can be much more focused on the result. The assumption is that the government is going to be there forever, and so they can look at the 100 years into the future. Now, obviously, for your personal life, what do you think I'm going to say is the better one? Well, let me just say what the advantages are of doing the process-oriented. And I want you to write down which one you are, by the way. I want you to write down, are you process-oriented or are you results-oriented? Because process-oriented is great for getting really good at a skill. The Japanese guy that just painted the same wave over and over again for 70 years until he staggered back and was like, this one is acceptable. Very process-oriented. Japan, generally, is a very process-oriented country. It is about picking a skill and mastering the skill. And that's what they see as the path to happiness. And they're right as well, by the way. They're absolutely right. Mastery of a skill is really respected in Japan. Outcomes in China are really respected. Ideally, what you want to be, and we've talked about this before, and I want you to write this down. I think that this is the best way to be in life. You want to be outcome-oriented. Write this down. You want to be outcome-oriented, but not outcome-attached. Now, what does that mean? Really, what we're talking about here is Deng Xiaoping's most famous quote, which is, it doesn't matter whether it's a black cat or a white cat, as long as the cat catches mice. That's what they're talking about there. So, what they're saying is, ideally, the CCP is not ideologically wedded. I think that there is a lot of real-world examples of them that you could absolutely argue that they are not ideologically oriented. They are oriented on results, regardless of. This is something that over and over again, when you start looking at it as like, am I results oriented? Am I getting the result that I want? You start moving ahead in life very quickly. And a lot of this ethos and mythology that you put around your decisions starts going away. This is something that I've noticed with a bunch of people when they talk to me about starting up in YouTube, right? And then they say, oh, I just want to be talking about this thing and I want to be putting in my specific art to it. And then I say, is it getting you the results? And they say no. And then they have this huge story in their head as to why they can't do the things that I'm suggesting that they do. And obviously, I do this as well, and there would be much more successful content creators than me that are telling me, do these things. And I go, oh yeah, but I've got all of these excuses. And it's just like, look, all I will say is, in comparison to some people, I am more results-oriented. But I think that, honestly, if you are results-oriented, i.e. you only care about the result, you are going to get results. You are not going to be wedded to, oh, but it needs to be done in this special way, which we always have in our heads. There's a very good saying in business that, like, you've fallen in love with the product instead of the customer. At the end of the day, the idea is to get the product in front of the customer. And does that mean that, like, you know, you set back on some features that you're like, but it makes the product better? And it's like, yes, that's exactly what it means, because that's not what the customer wants. The customer wants something, say, for instance, that's cheaper. They want something that is more easy to use or whatever, right? Because they're not as in love with the product as you. They don't want to be sitting there rebooting like a Linus X fucking computer or whatever every time. They just want something really easy like the Mac. Yeah? And now there's going to be a bunch of nerds sitting there being like, did Linus X actually... I don't even know if it's called the Linus X. That's how behind I am with that conversation there. But that is what they're looking for. They are looking for the result, right? I just want you to know that a lot of the time in your life, you're going to be sitting there and you do want a result. You definitely want a result. That's the goal. And you are a lot closer to that goal than you think that you are. The problem is that you are not doing what gives you results. You are too ensconced in the art. You are too ensconced in the process that you are not looking at, well, if I change the process a little bit, I would be able to get the result. That happens all the time. This happens to me. You can look at it on my channel. This is all I care about on this channel now. Like before, I used to just care about like, oh, I just want to foster like a good community and all this stuff. But then I'm just realized, no, the result is to grow the channel. That the result is to grow the channel. That's what I want. And the reason that I want that is I want to be able to hire more staff. And as a result of hiring more staff, we are able to spread that message out further. And I want to be able to attract new people in so that they actually do see what self-help is and how it's beneficial to them. That is the result. What I was doing before was just looking at it, just being like, oh, I'll just tailor it to this audience and maybe one day it'll grow. And it just never did. It never did. But as soon as I started looking at it from results, I started getting results. And this is just the undeniable, brutal truth of reality. If you are not getting the result you want, you are not result-oriented. I highly suggest that you are result-oriented. The reason that I highly suggest that is so that you have money to sign up to my Patreon, where you get extra 3 of these extra videos a week. And the reason that you want to be doing it is you want somebody who is telling you this stuff constantly, that is saying to you, look, stop looking at the world through your little moshy brain and like your little story that you put up in your head. Let's look at what actually works, because you want what actually works. You do want that. You've just got a bunch of obstacles that you put up in your way for God knows what reasons. We all do it. But let's stop looking at the world like that. Let's look at the world in the way that gets you what you want. And that is why it's really important to have somebody in the self-help world. And it might not necessarily be me. To just pick somebody that you listen to endlessly that is constantly reminding you of this kind of stuff. And that's why I think that you should sign up to Jordan Shanks, because it's more of that. So make sure that you do that. Links are below for that. Come to the seminars as well. If you want the true, purest dose of it, everybody that goes to the seminars loves them. Everyone. I think so anyway, because they keep coming back. Anyway, I'll see you next time, because you'll be back, won't you? Won't you?